It is the Anfield Wrap. It's Neil Atkinson. I've got Beth Lindop from ESPN, Grace Mailey and Phil Blundell all here. We are brought to you by the official fitness digital partner of Liverpool Football Club, which is Peloton. We are delighted to be partnering with them. Liverpool have not won the league yet, which means I am not yet on the Peloton for the full hour of this Anfield Wrap show, going all the way through.
Would you do the second half of that Crystal Palace Arsenal game on the Peloton?
If
there's a chance.
I mean, I think that
might work, you know.
I might be up for it. I just don't know quite how we're broadcasting that. If you see what I mean, part of the point of this is that
Wi-Fi. Camera in front of you,
and then I'm on the Peloton for 45 minutes,
like a Mark Goldbridge watch along, except
I'm on a Peloton.
You're on a Peloton.
I think that's quite the commitment.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think it'd actually be soothing, like, because I like standing and walking around when I'm watching the match. So the idea of just cycling through it, if anything, I'm saying that's too easy, Phil. I think doing this show is actually harder when it comes to it. So I think we don't want to let me off the hook. I would enjoy the sort of the displacement activity of the cycling.
About both?
Well, why not everything from now on? If they win the league,
making scrambled eggs on a Peloton.
Yeah, like Ben Johnson. I'm moving through from there. We've got all the watch along stuff. John does something, so if you want to get in touch with John to be part of his Peloton community of Anfield Wrap listeners, we're really enjoying that. John's really enjoying that. I'm not in it. I will join it. The wee was important. I will join it at some point. But I very much do enjoy the Peloton. Very much enjoy the classes with Leanne. So if you've got the opportunity to sign up or take part in it in any way, and Peloton, as I said before, are the official fitness digital partner of Liverpool for this season and into next as well, and thank you very much to them. We need to talk about Liverpool Football Club 2, West Ham United Football Club 1. I mean, before anything else, Grace, before we get into them, before we talk about that second half and the madness and then enjoy the sheer delight, let's just be clear, before anything else, it is just another enormous step forward, an enormous weekend, and I think Arsenal, if you didn't think they conceded with the side that they picked against Everton, I think there's no shadow of a doubt that Arsenal have other things to do than this league title. So it's a big step forward the whole weekend.
Yeah, I kind of hate the league title ever resting on anyone else apart from us anyway, if we're in this position. And, you know, there's a lot of ifs and buts because we obviously don't know what Arsenal are going to go on to do, but this is a massive weekend for us, and you could feel that inside Anfield yesterday. At the end of the game, I don't know if you saw this, I felt like I was the only one to witness it, but there was about 40,000 other people in the stadium, so it's okay. At the end, Arne Slot made all of the players stay out and go round again and clap go right round the centre circle and clap everyone again. And that to me was like, he's either doing this, one, because he knows the importance of the weekend, we're one step closer to a league title, or he knows that the second half was a bit below par and he should be thanking the fans for pulling them through it. And I just thought that is a mark of how far we've come this season. He wants all of the players to buy into the fact that we are on the cusp. He wants them to soak up every moment, and that is what they did at the end of the game yesterday. And to me, that was a moment of like, I actually know that we're going to do it now. It's just a matter of when. Whereas in weeks gone by, I've not wanted to sing it because I just don't want to put the... Not that me singing puts the mockers on us, but do you know what I mean? It's just that moment of... But I think yesterday it certainly felt like a huge game, and at the end, I mean, I kind of had no doubt that we were going to win it, which is mad to say. But I just thought their goal was just a complete and utter let off by us. So I thought... And then I knew that we'd all be resurgent afterwards. So I thought, you know what? Maybe we'll come back from this, and we did.
Well, you're more forgiving of them than I am, but we'll get on to that in a minute or two.
I won't be in a bit.
Beth, there is with that moment, and with the manager, you know, I think being at pains to put that on the team and show the team. But I thought you also saw it from the captain with his reaction to his goal. It wasn't just the idea of what it meant. I thought you saw with him, you know, I got the impression was wanted to be in the crowd afterwards. He had that full body language. He almost had to pull himself away to go back to play centre back for a bit. He was revelling in it. And it's you know, we'll talk about him more, but it's great that he got that moment, and I think again he was all over the significance of it.
Yeah, and I think he deserved that moment. You know, he's had a tremendous season, and I think obviously Liverpool have been slightly below par the past few weeks, and you know, Van Dijk has been as guilty of that as anyone really, but I think, you know, that shouldn't undermine what he's done for 7-8 months. He's led this team in such exemplary fashion for the entire season, so I was delighted for him that he got that moment, and I think you saw how much it meant. I mean, he's such a cool customer, isn't he, Virgil? So I think for him to respond in the way that he did shows you just how much it meant to him. You know, the little kiss of the badge as well, I think was maybe a little hint of perhaps what's to come in the next few days, but it felt big. It did feel really big. I think that's the most animated, even after sort of celebrating the goal on a slot. It's probably the most animated I've seen him, and he made a point of going up to the cop, and it does feel like now they are on the precipice. I did notice that. I thought it was quite weird. There were a few of us who were sat in the press box, and for 1 minute I thought, are they going to just announce Virgil's contract?
That is literally what I said to my mum.
Because everyone was hanging back, and it was very weird. And Virgil did get asked about it after the game, and he was quite cryptic, and he said maybe the manager's...
Salah wasn't cryptic, was he?
No. He said maybe the manager's trying to build something, but he then said ask him. So maybe we'll have to do that. Maybe we'll have to put it to Slot and ask what that was all about. But it does feel like, Slot has been quite reluctant almost to bask in that sort of adulation from the fans, and it's almost like now you can sense it's getting closer. He's almost letting himself and letting the team do that a little bit.
I mentioned Arsenal at the top. Phil, I'm very much of the view they've knocked the king over. And I want to be clear about this, and I think it's important to say this rightly. Whatever the points difference ends up being from Liverpool to Arsenal at the end of the season, I think it's a false points difference. I think that there's no getting away from the fact that they're a really good side. They've had the difficulties over the course of the season. But I just think it's important to almost just dwell on the idea of they are doing the right thing, Arsenal, at this point. They did the right thing prior to the Real Madrid game. They're doing the right thing as they find themselves halfway through it, in terms of saying this is not our priority anymore. We just need to ensure that we finish in the Champions League places in this thing, because their priority is rightly that game against Real Madrid.
Absolutely. Like football doesn't end. It's not like that, their chances of ever winning a league title will end in a week, 2 weeks, whenever it is we win the league. They get the opportunity to go again next season.
We all start again at zero.
Everyone has got, same situation, but they're not in the same situation in Europe. They have the opportunity to go and win a European Cup. I'm not necessarily sure they will, but they do have that opportunity, and they're 3-0 up against Real Madrid. You can't be in a position where you're putting Saka on the pitch for 90 minutes for the off chance of going, 11 points behind, and then maybe not having enough in the tank to do something at Real Madrid on Wednesday night. You can't take that opportunity, and football is about making sensible decisions, and they have made a sensible decision. I think you are right about the points gap being false, really, in some ways. I think they got off on the wrong foot with their fixture list ultimately, and they just never recovered from that. I think their first 5 or 6 aways were pretty harsh, and if you're dealt that fixture list, you are always going to be on the back foot. You're either going to be on the back foot, or you basically have one hand on the title, just for how the fixtures were for them. So I have a level of sympathy for them that I don't think is widely shared by people. I don't think they've maximised their chances as they could have done. But I do think they've had things go against them in a way that we've had this in previous seasons, and it's not been that, you look at 2021, we didn't finish third a mile off the pace because we were just not very good. We did it because circumstances just conspired against us, and that happens in football. And then the next season, we nearly had one of the greatest seasons in football history we didn't change anything, just different. It just went differently, and that's what Arsenal have got to do now. They've got to look at this European Cup, and that's something that they can do differently.
If there is something where I am critical of Arsenal, Beth, over the course of the season, and not just Arsenal, but I think Arsenal were the ones who were the likeliest to be able to match Liverpool over this campaign. I haven't seen City implode, although I think it touches City as well. It's the quality of what you're dealing with, and it's astonishing to me that West Ham side with those players is 17th. This is not me criticising Potter, certainly not in the same way in which I criticised Lopetegui, who I think was appalling at the start of the season for West Ham. But the idea that in this league, Kudus, Paquetá, Bowen, Max Kilman, who I think is a really good defender, that those players are in the 17th, the side ranked 17th, is insane. And I think what Liverpool have done brilliantly, better than everyone else, is treat everyone simultaneously with the utmost respect, but also have the mentality of, but we should win. Yep. And I think yesterday was a great example of all of that, the quality of what you're up against on the one hand, but also the idea that Liverpool will rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and I think the manager has made a point right from the start of the season, really, of highlighting just how strong this league is, and that every opponent needs to be treated with respect. And listen, that can feel like a little bit of a token when managers say that, and sometimes you'll get Guardiola sort of maybe waxing lyrical about the team that are in 20th, and you think maybe it's a little bit of overkill, but it is such a strong league. And I think Liverpool, you look at, I was only thinking the other day, like some of the results earlier in the season, the 2-0 away at Bournemouth. I mean, I remember before that game, I think we were doing the overview and we were talking about how tough it, and we were really building that game up, and it was a tough game in Bournemouth.
Really hard, yeah.
Bournemouth have had an exceptional season, but Liverpool, you look at the score, 2-0, they sort of did that with the minimum of fuss, really. I mean, obviously Brentford was a really dramatic one, but again, Brentford away, it's such a tough game, and all of those really challenging fixtures, they've just sort of come through, and I think it is such a strong league, and maybe it's not been as strong in terms of the top 6, but I think, every side that you go to from second through to 20th, really, that they're going to pose problems, and Liverpool have just navigated those problems better than anyone else has. And if I was an Arsenal fan, I would be absolutely apoplectic with some of the performances that Arsenal have turned in. And I agree with Phil. I do have a degree of sympathy because they have had a lot of injuries, and not just a lot of injuries, but injuries in the same area of the pitch, which is, that's what Liverpool struggled with so badly in 2021, wasn't it, when all the defenders were out. So it is tough. But there have been some performances where they've just been a bit lacklustre, and it does feel like
probably too many of them. In fairness,
and if you're an Arsenal fan, it probably would feel like a huge missed opportunity. But that's no slight on Liverpool whatsoever, and I think that's what I found frustrating actually. The last couple of weeks, it's almost like people have almost held it against Liverpool that Arsenal haven't been playing well, and it's like, well, hang on, it's not Liverpool's responsibility to make sure that Arsenal pick up points and play well, and it's a credit to Liverpool that they've got themselves into a position where now they don't particularly have to play well, they've just got to get the job done.
With it, Grace, and with yesterday in mind in terms of that, I thought what was really impressive for Liverpool, and this is why it's a little bit of a difficult game to get your teeth into, was I thought they really deserved to be 2-0 up at half-time. I thought they started really quick. They were all over West Ham. Up until about the 35th minute, I think there's a moment where Wan-Bissaka and Salah come together in the penalty area, and that felt as though that was the end of Liverpool's dominance and control and desire to get the second. I think then they just sort of take half time, but Liverpool were really very good, the Liverpool that we wanted them to be in that first half period.
Yeah, they were just like on the front foot from the get-go and constantly chasing balls, and Salah was everywhere. Like, Salah gave their left back a proper hard time. At one point he was legging it at him, and Curtis Jones was right in front of me, and he shouted, kill him, and it was just the best thing I've ever seen. It was so good, and like they were all just well up for it, and that's something that I've like not really seen a lot of in our last few games, and we've been criticised for only being like in second gear or whatever, whether that's due to wanting to preserve energy or because we were in multiple competitions, or I don't know. But yesterday it just seemed like that's the attacking style of football that we want to watch from Liverpool, and that was what we saw in the first half. I mean, second half I just felt like I'd seen a completely different side, and I was like, what's going on here? But I think the way they started that game is how we want to see Liverpool start any game of football. The thing for me was that I felt like West Ham were trying to do things to kind of slow the pace down, and Paquetá spent most of the time on the floor, which is not new for him really, but I think they were doing everything they could to kind of slow us down and stop us in our tracks, and towards the end of the first half you could kind of feel that a bit. But I just loved how every single player on that pitch was well up for it yesterday, and clearly thought, we're on the cusp of a league title here and we need to get this job done, and they certainly came out and showed what they were capable of and what we've wanted to see in terms of attacking style of football from Liverpool this season.
Phil, it starts off with the good in that first half. I thought you saw why it can work really well with Jota. I thought his link-up play was excellent. Dropped deep, got involved, brought Diaz in over and over again. I thought you saw Jones everywhere. Clearly what the manager wanted. And as Grace said, I think that Salah versus Scholes was just a real problem for West Ham. He's a young lad, Scholes. He got hooked at half-time the weekend before. The manager brought him back in. I think he only gives him the extra 10 minutes, so he hasn't took him off for two consecutive half-times, to be honest. I think that's what he just decides. He can't do that to him again. He's clearly a lad full of talent and promise. But Salah did indeed John killing him.
Yeah, I like what I've seen of him for the most part, that Scholes, but there was a lot of naivety in how he played. Like we all, the three of us, sit in pretty much the same place, and we get basically to watch Mohamed Salah controlling long balls in front of us every week. And what happens is usually the defender lets him win the ball, and that's how they manage him through that. And he tries to win 3, maybe 4 of them over the course of. There's one just after half time. There's 2 or 3 in the first half, and he gets them all wrong. Like all of them wrong.
You could see the worry on his face. He was thinking, "Oh, can I just be moved here? Wish I didn't play in this position at all."
I wish I woke up with food poisoning. He gets. The goal he gets so wrong. All he needs to do is just let him win it, manage him, let your teammate get back in, support you. But it's just an inexperienced thing, and it's it helps when you have that. And I think one of the parts in the way the game turned is that they put Wan-Bissaka over there, and Wan-Bissaka's just a much better, more competent defender in terms of reading the game, managing footballers.
He's got tons of experience.
He's got tons of experience. He's a fellow who Manchester United signed 50 million quid, and I know that maybe doesn't mean that much relative to what it should do, but someone at Manchester United still saw fit to spend £50 million on him. And I think he's in the right place at West Ham, and you saw a lot of him second half yesterday in terms of him showing what he's really capable of, and he was a huge part in how the game changed, I thought, in terms of he just removed that out ball. He removed, I think there's a bit on Match Today last night where they showed Kanate just putting 2 or 3 balls up that side, and that was how we were getting out in the first half. I think what I've quite liked about the centre-backs this season is that they're willing to sort of break away from just passing the ball into midfield. Like you see a lot of teams are sort of rigid. Chelsea, for example, are very rigid with, we're just going to put the ball into one of those 2 midfielders and we'll go from there. If the centre-backs at Liverpool are looking up and going, well, there's no ball into the midfield, they're more than happy to just hit Mohamed Salah or hit Diaz or try and hit Nunes or Jota over the top. They're happy to sort of mix it up, and I think that's a real quality and it's an advert for what the manager's doing, I think, in terms of how he's happy to go, well, we've got this style, but you don't have to you don't have to be married to it for 90 minutes every single game. And ultimately we go 1-0 up by in that way yesterday, in a way that I watch other teams, I don't think they score that goal because I don't think they play the ball. I think there would have been the centre back would have probably put his foot on the ball a bit longer, rolled it underneath his studs, tried to make a centre forward to commit to him or a winger commit to him, then he could have popped it off and they move up the pitch that way, whereas we're like, let's just do that. And it does help when you have a left back who is
at the start of the season,
naive, I would say.
At the start of the season, though, Liverpool were doing less of that, and people were criticising them, being like, "This is not the style of football we watched last season. Like, how has this changed this drastically?" But I think as the season's gone on, he said to them, like, take more risks, don't lose what you were last season, just change it and adapt it slightly to how I want to see us play.
I think that the manager will love, because of what he wants, a goal which goes from one wide player to the other wide player. Beth, we've seen a fair bit of that over the course of the season. Again, I think it helps when you've got Salah because of his appreciation of the game and of his teammates. But I think that whole move, for instance, I think the defender probably gets there ahead of Jota if Jota isn't there, if that makes sense. He probably gets there to deal with it.
Do you think he was trying to pass to Jota?
I think he can see both of them.
Or do you think he's just putting it in the right area and he's hoping for the best?
Not hopeful.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's either or.
You can't have that much skill and be hopeful, can you? But
I think I agree with you. I think he knows. I think he's so smart. He's almost like, well, if one doesn't get it, the other one will. And I think that's what you see, Beth. But again, I think that was an example of the 3 working really, really well together in a way that maybe we haven't seen that much of the last few weeks.
Yeah, I thought Liverpool, from an attacking perspective yesterday, the first half were as good as I've seen them since probably that win over Newcastle, the 2-0 at home. They all just seemed so up for it. I think you really could tell that Salah was buoyed by having that weight off his shoulders with the contract. I do agree. I think Scarl's inexperience helped him. That said, I think he's a fantastic player. I have really liked him when I've seen him this season. But I think yesterday, obviously, Salah gets the better of him in that first half. But Jota as well, I thought, he looked... I think sometimes with Jota, the frustrating thing is he's obviously such a good finisher, but sometimes I think beyond that, you sort of think, well, what's he doing? I think the last few weeks he's not maybe held the ball up as well as he could, and whereas I thought yesterday, the first half, he was great. He was looking to go forward, he was looking to drive. I thought Diaz was exceptional yesterday, and to be fair, even in the second half was probably Liverpool's best forward player, and he was just constantly harrying defenders, and he does get it levelled at him that he maybe doesn't get the goals and assists that perhaps you'd like from him. But then again, I think when you compare it to other sort of left wingers in the league, I think Liverpool's perspective of how much a left winger should score is probably skewed by the fact you've got Salah on the other side doing insane numbers, and Sadio Mane, who was again a little bit of an anomaly in terms of the amount of goals he managed to score from the left. So I thought Diaz did really, really well. But I just thought like it was the Liverpool that we've seen for sort of 6 months of the season yesterday, and that was really, really pleasing. I think obviously what won't have pleased the manager is that then what transpired after the break.
We'll come on to after the break in a minute, Grace. Before then, I thought the other thing that I thought made a difference from Liverpool's point of view was I thought Bradley's surging. And I thought Bradley and Jones, I thought the two of them worked really, really well together. I thought Curtis was just everywhere for the first 45. It's one of the things that makes the second half quite as odd as it is when you stop to analyse it, because it felt as though you just couldn't keep Jones out the action. It felt as though Bradley was always just about to be on with any movement that he made, and I thought that having Bradley just made a massive difference.
Yeah, I think starting with Bradley, you definitely noticed the impact that Conor Bradley made yesterday. I mean, he was everywhere, and his talent and his pace is just second to none. Like, you talk about, everyone's mentioning Trent and the fact if he goes, if he stays, blah blah, but I think if you are after a good enough replacement, you look no further than Conor Bradley, because his level of talent is outstanding. And watching him yesterday, I was like, this is what we missed in our previous games when him and Trent were both injured. We missed that threat coming from the back. But Curtis Jones, like, you noticed the difference when Curtis came off, because Curtis was everywhere and he was really making a difference. And you know, I have this thing about Curtis Jones where sometimes I think he doesn't put enough tackles in for my liking, and I thought yesterday he was a little slightly standoffish, but he was everywhere, and you could see how much he wanted us to win. I mean, you look at him on the bench celebrating when that winner goes in, and he is like hugging everyone on people's shoulders, like jumping up and down. Even when they scored, you know, you looked over at the bench and you could see him stood up, like, come on everyone, like, get back into it type thing. And it's like, he's Scouse, isn't he? And he knows what it means to win for Liverpool and to win matches for Liverpool, and he will have known how upset everyone was when their goal went in and thought, oh God, like, is this another couple of points drop? But yeah, he was everywhere. Conor Bradley though, I just absolutely love him.
Like, it felt like one of the things I think we sort of struggled with after he went off was that we didn't really get to grips with. I think they not only Wan-Bissaka went the other side, but it felt like they changed shape as well.
Yeah.
In terms of what they did, and we never really got to grips with that. I think the best example of that was when Soler had the ball in, probably on the halfway line in the centre circle, and he moved forward with it, and then he's like, hang on, I'm on the edge of the box, and he didn't, like, he had no idea how he got to the edge of the box, and he didn't really have any idea what to do with it once he got there,
but just parted.
But he basically just walked forward 25 yards through the middle of us, and it was stuff like that we hadn't quite, I think we really struggled to adjust to Paqueta sort of getting a little bit more responsibility towards how they changed, and I that was, like we talk about it wasn't good in terms of how we played, but I do wonder if it was something that the manager was quite slow to get to grips with in terms of how we cope with that, and that I'd like to see that not happen. But it sort of, it happens, it just does happen sometimes, doesn't it, where another team does something and you're a bit like, okay, well, you either don't stop it, you try to stop it and fail, or you just can't adjust to it. And it felt like that's what happened. There were a few things that didn't help us. I don't think the Quansah coming off a Bradley thing really helped. I think you see that with the goal, and that was a centre back playing right back, forgetting that ball is his responsibility, really. It was just as simple as that. And there's various things that, as the game went on, we just got a little bit sort of more out of our comfort zone, I think.
Well, let's start with the basics. In fact, let's start with a quiz. In the first half, according to StatsBomb, 33
Nicholas Anelka.
33 Liverpool players. There were 33 passing combinations.
I was going to say 33 Liverpool
players. I know, yeah. No wonder we were so good.
33 passing combinations of 4+, i.e. one player passed to another player 4 times or more in the first half. How many passing combinations of 4+ passes did Liverpool's players manage in the second half?
Less than 10.
Less than 10? 7?
5.
1.
No.
Virgil to Canate.
That's bad, isn't it?
Was the only passing combination that Liverpool had in the second half. Do look at that and check my work in there, Grace. It says number 4, Virgil to Canate 4. There you are, 4. One, Virgil to Konate 4 times. So it wasn't even as though it was more than 4. That was the most Liverpool players managed to pass to each other in the second half, having done 33, 4 plus in the first half. It's staggering. Does anyone have an explanation? Phil's mentioned that I think they do tweak things. I think I think that he's a clever manager, Graham Potter, Beth. I think it's worth bearing that in mind. We've actually seen him turn up to Anfield and get results in the past, and be clever and canny in his way of going about it, and certainly frustrate the way Liverpool want to play. So I'm allowing that as a potential, but I'll say again, and I mean it with the greatest respect to the league, these are 17th, and I find the second half from about the 48th, 49th minute until about the 88th minute to be just on the verge of inexplicable how poor Liverpool became.
Yeah, and I almost think that's why I don't even think it's something you can explain tactically. I almost just think it was almost a bit of a mental thing. I think they played so well in the first half, and I think it's the criticism that we've maybe had of them, across the course of the season, really, that they've not been willing to put themselves on the line to try and get a second and then try and get a third and kill off the game. And I just sort of think, the longer it went on, and this is where I guess the way Slot wants them to play sometimes can cause problems, because there was almost an element of being willing to settle for the 1-0. And the longer it goes on, and then you saw that with the manager's substitution, bringing Salah off. Does he bring him off for about 80?
Yeah.
For Endo, which I thought was a little bit of a mad sub at the time.
83, yeah.
And not necessarily the fact that Salah came off, because at that point Salah wasn't being massively influential. But I think for your last sub when a game is that tight, to bring off a goal scorer for Endo was slightly bizarre to me. And I just think it was maybe a little bit of a psychological thing where the nerves start to creep in, they become a little bit too passive, it becomes about defending that 1-0. And, there was, for the West Ham goal, Paquetá at that point is playing centre-back almost. He's right at the top of the pitch. And he just had so much time and so much space to be able to pick out balls. And I just think Liverpool lost the heads, basically, for probably about 35 minutes of that second half.
It felt like that we were sort of making the pitch smaller as the half went on, and I think that sort of played into West Ham's hands a little bit. I think Gakpo as a left winger compresses the pitch because he's got no interest in going on the outside and everything. He wants to come inside, which moves the right back inside, it moves the left back inside, it moves everyone closer together, which in terms of passing combination, we've got less space to pass to people, and then you got Quanta on the other side who's doing the same, and it feels like we want things a little bit spread out and a bit of space, and we didn't really have that opportunity, and it sort of meant that when they got the ball, it felt like we were sort of in a position where everything got closer to our goal than we'd have liked. I thought we were quite poor when we won the ball back, breaking on them, in terms of there was a few opportunities. I think there's a Gravenberch ball. I think he tries to find Gakpo, and it's a bad ball, and if he gets that ball right, there's a chance that Gakpo scores. But we couldn't find those kinds of things, and it just wasn't a fun sort of 25-30 minutes to watch. And but I think this is sort of why I'm sort of excited about this season relative to next season, in terms of, mentioned football not ending in the first bit, and you can see how this team gets a lot better, and that's the really encouraging thing. It's I'm really not bothered about performances at this moment in time, because I don't think this Liverpool team looks like it will look in August. So I'm all about getting the points over. I'd obviously like us to look brilliant, win 4-0 every week, and go, we're going to get 150 points next season. That's what I want ultimately. Well, not 150 because it's not possible, but you know what I mean.
I decided you include the Swiss system and something else will enter. Group stage of the Papa Johns.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? But it just that kind of thing. There's flaws sounds really harsh.
It's all right.
But there's things that need a lot of work, and to be where we are, I think genuinely it's fantastic.
Well, you started off, Grace, you talked about the manager getting them all together in the circle, and the idea of, if Virgil cryptically refers to building something.
Yeah.
I think part of it is, it's worth saying that this team's experience, there's a lot of players on this team who've experienced a lot. One of the things they have not experienced is being champions in front of people. They haven't experienced that. They haven't experienced
Isn't
that process.
Mad to think about?
Yeah, but also they haven't experienced it both at the point at which you get over the line because of what went on last time. But they also haven't experienced it in terms of them playing games next season in front of a crowd at Anfield, especially, but also away from home. And we haven't experienced having that either going to Old Trafford as champions.
I saw it. Play Wolves, didn't we? I went to a game as champions.
I went to.
All right. No need to rub it in.
I went to the one against West Brom as champions.
That's harsh, innit?
And it didn't feel champion to me.
Well, 4-0 when I went, mate.
To be crystal clear. But they didn't know, they never got all of that rush. And I just sort of wonder here if what he is, when we are cryptically referring to building, is what we are sort of building into is, well, Liverpool are going to kick off next season as champions, so watch them go.
Yeah.
But we've got to get there first. And that's where, you know, that second half was maybe just a little bit of a birth in pain almost of us going through the process of ending up getting to where we need to get to, which is we emerge fully formed as champions.
Yet I can't put my finger on what it is, because I've seen a few people online be like, it's tiredness, right? I'm not buying that. If I'm being totally honest,
I'm not fresh as a daisy first half.
Yeah, because also we're not fighting on full fronts. We're in one competition, right? So where's your tiredness coming from? You're playing one game a week when you've been playing 3. So, like, I don't know where that's coming from. I genuinely think, right, and I've said this from, like, everyone's laughing at me.
I'm just laughing because I've never seen anyone as angry at the concept of tiredness in football.
Yeah, because I'm just not buying it. Because,
I'm not having it either.
No, neither.
Because I feel like they were a completely different side, second half to first half, completely different side. And they've clearly got it in them to do that in the first half because we saw it. So, like, where does that go wrong? I'm just going to go on a slight rant about Cody Gakpo because I think it needs to be mentioned. He looked disinterested yesterday.
Do you think so?
Yeah. When he came on, he looked disinterested. And everyone by us was screaming at him. Like, there was people yesterday in that stand who I've never heard shout in my life who were very animated because they were just so frustrated at what they were watching. We're going to win a league title. Like, it's about getting the point. It's not about seeing these amazing performances. But I think because we know that they've got it in them and we saw it first half, second half, they were like, oh, like, what's going on here? The tiredness factor, the reason I'm really annoyed about it is because I think Slot's come in and he's calmed down. He's kind of took a bit of the emotion out of winning a title, right? With Jürgen, I used to sit on the edge of my seat every game, and my mood for the next 3 days depended on the result of that match. I just don't feel that anymore. Like, I obviously really want us to win this title, but his calmness, his style of play, the fact that to begin with, he wasn't really interacting with the fans much. Everyone was a bit like, what's going on here? All of that. I don't think it can be tiredness because I don't think we're playing in fourth gear. I genuinely think they're in second and they're just like getting the results, yeah. But you can't put the tiredness factor on it when in seasons like last season, everyone was knackered because they'd gone full throttle to the very end when we were stretched.
But you could tell it wasn't tiredness the way they were able to just suddenly pick it up when it went 1-1. Like, it was like it was almost like it was only about 2.5 minutes, but it was a bit like the Alamo, really, wasn't it? I mean, we hit the bar. We should have had, Quansah could probably do a little bit better with a header. There's the McAllister shot, which was he got a bit lucky that Areola sort of lost his bearings because he could have just let that go behind. I don't think it was even hitting the post. It was going comfortably behind. But it was in the space of 2.5 minutes. We've basically spent the entire time.
I think they have 5 shots in 90 seconds.
Between the 2 goals, the entire game was basically played in their penalty box.
Yeah,
pretty much. And that shows what they were capable of doing. But all of us, for 30 minutes, they were just a bit like, oh well. Right, whatever. And I know a lot of it's to do with the fact that suddenly they're defending a point as opposed to defending nothing and chasing something, and that is obviously a part of it. But at the same time, Liverpool was still able to ramp it up from neutral to fourth gear.
Yeah.
They have 5 shots.
Yeah.
As I say, I think it's about 90 seconds. It might be 120 seconds, but it's not much more than that.
It's not much more, because I think they score on about 85, 50 or something, and then we score on 88, 30. So you take into consideration the amount of time it takes to get the ball and kick off.
And that's 5 shots.
And we've taken 2 corners as well.
Yeah,
so they're not like...
We didn't dwell on those corners.
Oh, no. I mean, fair play. Have you seen the clip? The fella, basically, there's a fella managed to have himself on video throwing the ball back for the winning corner. Have you seen it?
No.
There's a fella, he's basically on the front row of the cop behind the goal, and he's basically he was recording it as he picked the ball up, and he throws it over the ball boy's head to McAllister. It's fantastic. You can find it on Instagram and whatever. I think it's on Twitter as well.
Get him in.
It's great. Honestly, knight him. He should be on the pitch on the last day.
Yeah, get him in. I want him training the ball boys.
What a fella. It's a great throw. He picks it up one arm, loops it over the ball boy straight into McAllister. McAllister puts the ball down, bang, and then
I can't believe we've got a new candidate for Grace to live in Liverpool.
Honestly, fantastic. I'm just not having it was tiredness. It was a bit more. I think it was mental more than anything. I think there's a lot of it, and it was a bit like, I think once you play so well and don't get the second goal.
Yeah, because by the way, they didn't do what they've done in previous games that I've been critical of them 1-0.
I thought
they were really good at 1-0.
Yeah,
when it first went 1-0, they were really good.
It's the best we played. The best we played in the league game since probably that Newcastle game. I can't remember which one of the two you mentioned it, but it was probably that game. It's probably the best we played in all games, actually, I would say, in terms of that. But I think when you don't get that second goal and you've played so well, you sort of rightly you start to worry a bit, and you think, well, if we play really well and we couldn't get the second goal, what's happening here? And you get a bit deeper, and they sort of become a bit bolder because they've got nothing to lose, and you sort of a bit, hang on, what do we do here? And that's what I think you saw, and that's why it makes so much sense that once the goal had gone in, they're able to go, right, we need to sort this. And the captain was bang up for sorting it, wasn't he? He looked very sheepish 2 minutes in. He went from looking very sheepish, although whose fault do you think that own goal was?
I think it was Robertson's.
So
I'm in two minds because
I could have both arguments.
Because Van Dijk kicks the
but Robertson just appeared from nowhere.
So I think Robertson's too far over.
I think they're both slightly culpable, but I just sort of think why is Robertson there?
The thing that's quite funny, incidentally, is they're both going for different. They're trying to both put it behind. Van Dijk's trying to put it past Alisson's left-hand side post. Robertson's trying to put it past his right-hand post, and it's a bit like...
I think it's a bit of a problem. Where I've got sympathy for Robertson is he's realised earlier than anyone else the building's on fire. He's realised there's a problem.
And he's going to put it out.
So that's why I've got a bit of sympathy with Robertson. The reason why he ends up where he ends up is because in his head, Robertson's gone, we're in real bother here, I need to come and deal with this. So I've always got sympathy for that.
He's thinking of the Manchester United equaliser.
Yeah.
Where... Yeah, they don't cut the cross out.
Yeah,
and he's like, I'm sorting that, and it's ironically we still conceded.
Same thing, yeah.
Well, it's how relentlessly into the bottom corner it is. Yeah. It really is. It's right into the bottom. The keeper's got no chance, which is the only thing. He had no chance around Beth. It's an exceptional performance from the goalkeeper. The first half save is just unreal. I think. The one where it looks like Kudus hits the bar in the end. It's just unbelievable. But all the way through the game, the second half save from Kudus again, I thought was the business when he gets down. Kudus has got no right to score from there in a way, but he couldn't place it any better. And there he is. I thought he was tremendous throughout.
Yeah, I think what you see yesterday is sort of three of the most decisive moments, or the three of the most decisive players in that game are the three players who know what it means to win a league title with Liverpool. You have Alisson, who was undoubtedly for me man of the match. He was absolutely exceptional. Slot said after the game it was probably his best performance of the season. I think he's had a couple of them, really. You go back to that Girona one when he seemed to make about 15 saves, but he was exceptional. Yeah, and just the way he commanded his box. And I just think someone said it on a show last week, I can't remember who it was, but I almost think it gives the players who are playing in that back line an added layer of security, because they know automatically that they've got someone behind them who just doesn't even really have to do anything, but without, he can just strike fear into the opposition. So you have him, you have Virgil, obviously comes up with a decisive moment in terms of the goal, and then Salah was exceptional in that first half, and I just think that's what you need, and Slot said that after the game. You look to, as a manager, players who have been there and done it and won it to step up and sort of drag a team over the line, and I think that is what we saw yesterday, and Alisson was probably the best example of that.
He's a Liverpool great, Phil. I think there's no getting away from it, obviously, with everything that he's won and everything that he's been part of. But he's another one of these players. When we are talking about Salah, we're talking about Van Dijk and Alisson. You're talking now about people who've almost strode the game for the last 5 or 10 years in a global sense. You know, it's odd to think about that. It's odd to think about the fact that that's what we've almost got to witness at Anfield. And when the game does feel more global, you get to see more football than ever. And from anywhere, you get to see more clips, you get to watch more full games if you want. Whatever you want, this was not the case when Ray Clemence was playing. What was going on elsewhere was almost shrouded. Ray Clemence was undoubtedly one of the greatest goalkeepers ever to play the game. But you're acutely aware, I think, that Alisson Becker might just simply be the best goalkeeper in the world, and we get to watch him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. It was a range of things yesterday as well in terms of the saves he was making. Like there's the one-on-one from Bowen, which I think might have been offside. I haven't seen the replay. I thought it was at the time, and then I've seen the replay and I think he looks just offside. But like the Kudus one in the first half, he doesn't know that.
Yeah,
he's just got to stop the ball from going in, and he does his job fantastically. There's the Soler one-on-one just before the Kudus hits the bar as well. That's a really good bit of goalkeeping in terms of how he gets down to him and how he stops it and how he sort of manipulates the ball away from him, because that could have just gone straight to, you know, could have gone straight back to Soler or fallen a bit better to Kudus, and he could have had an even better opportunity than he didn't. And then he makes that save from Kudus as well. Distribution's excellent. Although I think it's a bit... Do you think his distribution's changed in terms of what he's being asked to do? I feel like he's not being asked to sort of manipulate play from the back in a way that he was under Klopp. I think it's more like just get the ball and make the easy pass as opposed to threading needles and stuff.
His distribution this season has been poorer than it has been in the past, and I do wonder how much of that has got to do with the injuries that he's had and how conscious he is maybe of doing his hamstring.
Yeah, well, there was something he said about... There was something that I can't remember a few weeks ago when they were like, why is Van Dijk taking goal kicks? And apparently one of the things they worked out was that he's less likely to get injured if he's not taking the goal kicks, which is a really... I suppose it's a strange thing, but I wish he stopped kicking the ball with the outside of his foot, because I think that's getting him injured as well. I think that's how he got injured at Palace, wasn't it? When he sort of, you know, swung the outside of his boot, like swung his leg and it hit the outside of his boot.
I think some of those back passes aren't great to him.
Absolutely. He's just getting rid of it in any way he can, which is sort of what I don't think he would have been doing last season. I think he'd have sort of been putting his foot on it and trying to bait someone. There seems to be less baiting of people from goalkeepers. Like you think of there was a goalie, not the Vinicius. There was a Vinicius one where he kicks it at him when he probably... I don't think that would happen now. Yeah, because I don't think he's being asked to do the same thing. There's another one as well. I can't remember what it was. I think it was Coppend as well, but I can't for the life of me remember who it was who scored or who it was against. But there was another one of those where it's a bit like he just feels like he's being asked to do different things, and I feel like it's better for him as well, just in terms of not a comfort thing, because I think he was quite comfortable with it, but in terms of just how he's approaching games.
You know, the other thing yesterday, he was a lot more vocal.
Yeah.
I could hear him as well. Yeah.
Had so much presence, I thought, yesterday.
And
so much presence.
Like, I've not...
I've never heard him before.
Yeah, so we kind of get the sense of how loud people are, and you can hear people like Curtis Jones shout "kill him" and stuff like that.
That's great. That was
Salah
so
whistling
good
for the ball and whatever. But Alisson's not one of those players that I usually hear. You hear a lot of Verge. You don't hear that much of Alisson, but you notice the difference when it's Kelleher or Alisson, because Kelleher's obviously a lot more quiet than Alisson anyway. And then so when Alisson's back, I just felt like I could hear him a lot more yesterday, which is what you want to hear from a keeper.
There was a good one when he was telling Shimikas to get back over onto the correct side of the pitch, wasn't there? After a set piece. Everyone had got back, and he's like, everyone had got back and they'd done that thing where you're on the wrong side of the pitch. But Bradley was over this side, Shimikas was over this side, Kanate was over this side, and there's just no one at left back, and he's like, get back to left back. And Shimikas is like, I'll wake up now.
All right, coming up now, we've got John Gibbons speaking to the chaps who are doing the Sound of Taggies.
It is John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap, and I'm joined in the studio by the famous Andy Hodgson, musician extraordinaire, and famous to me, Graham Kehoe, old friend of the show. Boys, thanks so much for coming in on a lovely sunny Liverpool day. You've got the shorts on. I've embarrassed myself in black jeans, but got dressed in Speedy this morning. But listen, boys, thanks for coming in first of all. But you're here to talk about something quite exciting, because there's loads of great stuff planned for the last weekend of the season. And listen, Liverpool knows how to throw a party, and there's going to be parties everywhere, but you guys have got something planned special. So just a little bit about, first of all, the Sound of Taggies, because it's something people maybe see knocking about a little bit, Graham. Obviously people will be aware of the pub, Andy sings there, but the Sound of Taggies is a bit more than that. So a little bit more on that, and then the night you've got planned.
Sound, well, thanks for having us, Sean. Yeah, it came about as a bit of a sort of a random one, I suppose. So obviously before every match, me and my friend Matty Murphy, who's a part of Sound of Taggies, we went few pints before, as you do, and seen the man doing his thing. So I don't know, it sort of escalated at that point because we had a little idea of how we can get this to the masses. We wanted everyone to experience what every one of us do when we go to Taggies before the match. As you know, seen there plenty of times, and it's just, it gets you up before the game, especially when he comes on stage as well. So came about, as I say, just that's a bit of a random one. So we had a little bit of this idea, what can we do? We had a chat with Andy, we had a chat with Taggy, and luckily enough that they were on board with it, and the idea was to get some media content and get it out to basically the world and as many Reds as we possibly can do. Unfortunately, we're not really experienced in that particular area, so we're searching for someone who can help us with that, and luckily Matty has got his own business in Field Supreme, and he's got a lad called Chris English, a fellow Red, and we told him about what our idea was, and it was a go. All systems go from there, and yet, so basically what it is that we do every match day, Taggies is obviously about 2 minutes away from the ground itself. It's absolutely chocker. But Andy comes on and absolutely gets everyone up for us before we even walk into Anfield itself. And
do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy doing it?
Oh, mate, I love it.
Because I can see you sort of buzzing. Because it's funny because you're quite a quiet guy. We met a few times now, and you're quite sort of unassuming. And then on stage, you're like a monster.
It's
it's an understatement.
I am dead laid back, like, and I get into trouble all the time. No, just.
But that feeling when everyone's singing.
Just when you're ready to go and everyone's just hanging, waiting. I don't know what it is. But as soon as I start and everyone's just game, I do turn into this beast. And I just get lost in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that with anyone who's passionate about someone, they get right into it. It's just like you just lose all. You're in.
Yeah. Boss. And you wanted to show that to people who maybe weren't lucky enough to be in a match day on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's all right for us because we're lucky enough most of the time to be able to get a ticket to be going to the match, but there's no other place like Taggies. For me, it's like a little match ritual for myself and my mates, and we go, and just to see him, as soon as he gets up, for us, we're sort of anticipating it, and we've been doing it for a while now, and it was just, we'd had a few beers in the pub, and it's like, what can we do? So as I say, it was a case of speaking to him, see if he was game for it, see if Taggy was all right with it, and finding out how we did that. So we've got obviously the social medias. We go live on Instagram Live whenever he's doing his bidding. We also have on TikToks and stuff like that. And the response has been absolutely massive so far. We've only been going a few months and stuff. But then it was a case of, okay, well, what do we do to take it to the next level? And then we realised it was 20 years. The last game of the season is obviously 25th of May, 20 years since Istanbul. So we started having a little think if we could do something a little bit special, not realising that we're hopefully going to win a 20th league title at the same time as well, touch wood. But yeah, so that's where the idea to put a big end of season party has come about, and hopefully all those Reds are going to be celebrating for the full weekend. So I'm sure I'll see you at some point. But yeah, so that's where we sort of are, and this is just the start. We've just been talking outside about how we're going to be going in next year, but for now we're really happy, and it's nice to see so many people from all over the world on, especially when we're doing the live streams before the games. All the nice comments and people from everywhere are just like, yeah, it's been mad, to be honest with you, John.
Well, that's the thing, because you must experience it. People come from all over to watch this team, and people support us every weekend wherever they live, and then they come to Anfield. I've met so many people who are like, oh, we're coming the last game of the season, and then you're like, have you got a ticket? And they're like, no. But they're not even worried about it, because they're like, they'll go to Taggies, or they're like, hold on for a hopeful parade and stuff like that. And it's just like, they just want to be in Liverpool that weekend because they know it's a big celebration. Now apparently Jurgen Klopp's going to be here and stuff like that. It's like, there's so much going on, and people just want to be part of it. And so stuff like your night on the Friday is giving people an extra thing to go, oh yeah, well, an extra thing that's going to make the weekend special, even if they can't go to the game.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds going on that weekend, isn't there? So there's a little bit for everyone. And we thought that as well, you know what it's like when you think, are we going to sell? Are we going to do well? But I thought the city's going to be full of Reds.
Yeah.
Especially after, the last time we kind of robbed of that celebration, weren't we? As we all know. So this is probably going to be the first one where it's access to all areas. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we can all just get out and just have a big party over the weekend.
So what's the party then? Come on.
23rd of May. Andy Hodgson is live at Box Park. So tickets available on Skiddle and on the Instagram page as well. So the plan is we've got Q&A with Liverpool legends. We've got raffle to win merchandise. We've got all the merchandise stores. We can buy official signed gear and stuff like that. We've got a few special guests that are going to be thrown in, which will probably be leaving it as a surprise to the end of the night, but you never know. Obviously,
just say Kev Walsh, please, it's fine.
Kev Walsh, just so everyone that loves a bit of Kev Walsh. Kev Walsh is going to be doing the comparing and so on and so forth. So,
sorry if that was one of your surprises.
No, it's
Kev's never a surprise. You'll hear him.
I was going to say, yeah, before you even get into the place, Kev Walsh, yeah. But yeah, Kev's very much going to be there front and centre. So there's that. But yeah, we've got a few special guests, which is not inclusive to Kev Walsh. But yeah, it's basically what the plan is. I say, but a Q&A with a few legends. We're gonna have a big boss party. We're going to start the last weekend of the season. We're going to start it right. We're going to make sure that everyone is going to be well oiled by the time that we get to Sunday, and hopefully lifting the big one. But the main thing is we've got the main man here, and he's going to absolutely take it off in a different venue. And the idea is we're going to bring the Sound of Taggies into Box Park, and it's going to be a little bit different, but exactly what you'd expect, and more the same. I say we're just going to have a really good night, and I hope everyone can join us. Obviously,
is it a buzz to do stuff with like the legends? Because you've obviously started out doing your own thing. You get onto Taggies. I know you've done quite a few shows now, but I always found when someone says, "Oh, do you want to do stuff with someone who's played for Liverpool?" You're like, "Fucking hell," do you know what I mean? And I'm going on after them.
yeah. It's what, like, because growing up watching these legends, like I said to Bruce once, I think we were in Norway last year in Alta, I think we were. It was like north of Norway. We were doing an event there, and so I'm at the bar. I'm having a drink with him and his wife Jane. Bruce, I used to watch you doing handstands on the fucking sideline. You know what I mean? When you used to clown about and that. Like, I said, no, I'm here in the top of Norway having a pint with you. Like, it's dead strange. And he's a lovely guy as well. But it's like that with all of them. Like, Jan Moby, great fella.
Yeah.
I could list them all.
But that's the thing for people like me and you. Like, we're lucky because you get to do what you love. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get to, in a way, you represent Liverpool, but no doubt about it, we've got no qualms. They're the fucking superstars. Do you know what I mean? Like, they play for Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? We're just having a laugh and having a
European winners.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, it's unbelievable just to be in their company.
Oh, yeah, it is. And you get to meet them on a personal level. And so like they've come to an event and say hello and get a picture, and then you chat with them for a while, and they're just like us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, just good at a different job.
Yeah, they're just better. Yeah.
So come on, Gray, big sell before we finish. People want to come down.
Yeah, so
how do they get the tickets?
Available on Skiddle. If you go to the Skiddle website, end of season party live at Box Park, Andy Hodgson. I say Liverpool legends. We're just gonna have a big boss time. Is the big sell. I mean, nobody needs an excuse to go out on a Friday night in Liverpool, John, as you well know. But yeah, 23rd of May. It's the Friday before the last weekend, the last game of the season, sorry. And I feel as though we're all going to have a big Sunday anyway, so you've got the Saturday to recover within the time. So get yourselves down. I say you go to Instagram page, Sound of Taggies, Andy Hodgson music. And yeah, if we hope to see you all there, and let's have a big one and celebrate number 20 with a bit of luck.
I mean, finally, you won't have Saturday recover because obviously you come to the Anfield Wrap.
Saturday morning. Saturday morning. Yeah.
You'll take your sleep where you can get it. No, jokes aside, there's absolutely loads going on all weekend, and do have a look, and there's something for everyone. Like Andy says, there's going to be so many Liverpool fans here that it's all about seeing where the parties are and seeing what grabs you. But I promise you, if you go to this one, you'll have a good time on the Friday night. So good luck to it. And hopefully this is the first of many more Sound of Taggies events.
Will be, absolutely.
Yeah. Cheers.
Great stuff from John there. Check that out if you can. Moving forward, just to be clear, obviously with the anniversary tomorrow, there'll be no Anfield Wrap content anywhere. That's what happens on the anniversary. Obviously, whatever it is that you need to do, if you're listening to this, in order to get through it, then make sure you look after yourselves and each other under all circumstances. And as I say, there'll be nothing out from the Anfield Wrap subscription or otherwise over the course of the day. So that's what we're doing. And then things will be back to usual on Wednesday, the 16th. Want to just talk about the captain for a minute, and I want to talk about Salah. Beth, starting off with the captain. You said before about what it means and what it meant and where this is. You know, I think the extent to which, starting off before, Grace talked about the manager and how he has or hasn't engaged with the crowd as much as his predecessor. I think he's not wanted to be like his predecessor. I think he's been conscious of that. I think maybe we'll see more of him feeling as though he can do that. But I feel as though what happened there, it's created just a little bit of a vacuum, which, or in fact, it hasn't created a vacuum, because I think from the get-go, I think Van Dijk has wanted to fill that. I think you often see he's the last off the pitch. You often see him going up to the cop end himself. I feel as though he's all in at this point, Van Dijk, in a way. I feel as though Anfield is his, in a way I don't think it's been anyone's since maybe Gerrard.
Yeah, I remember when sort of Van Dijk used to wear the armband sometimes when Jordan Henderson and James Milner were still at the club, and I actually used to feel that he wasn't a great captain, because he was a very different kind of captain in terms of, you know, Henderson, speaking about players being vocal, I mean, Henderson was as vocal as you could get on a football pitch, really, and James Milner was as well. And I used to think that you lost that a little bit when Virgil was captain, but I would say this season I think he has absolutely come into his own as captain. And there were two examples yesterday in the mix zone that I just thought just epitomised who he is off the pitch as much as he is on it. And he just stopped to speak to reporters, which he does very generously every week. He's under no obligation to do. And he said, "Oh, excuse me, I've just got to say hi to someone." And Sean Cox was just coming through with his family, and he made a point of going over and saying hi, and he said, "I'll be through in a minute." And it was a very, sometimes things you almost think of for the not for the cameras, that sounds awful, but it was a very genuine interaction.
A personal moment.
And he came back and he was obviously asked about his contract, and obviously it looks like that is all heading in the right direction. But the first thing that he wanted to point out was the next few days should be about Hillsborough, and he did that completely unprompted. And again, it's exactly what you want as an ambassador for your club. And I just thought those two little moments just sort of sum up the man as much as the footballer. And I asked him, actually, because his celebration, as I said earlier on yesterday, was quite un-Virgil-like in terms of it was just this real moment of emotional release. And I asked him sort of, do moments like that make you want to play for Liverpool more and make you want to stay here, and sort of what does the club mean to you? And I'll just read you a little bit of what he said, because I just thought it was a really nice answer. He said, "I joined the club in 2017 for many reasons like how much it means to all the Scousers, to all the fans around the whole world to be connected to Liverpool. Being successful with Liverpool, the culture of the club, everything that embodies Liverpool is just a part of me. That's why I'm always proud when I wear the shirt. I go out there and try to be the best version of myself in terms of the footballer player that I am." And I just think that sort of sums him up. And
love him.
Yeah. Yesterday, I just thought it was on and off the pitch, just sort of embodied why he's been such an asset for Liverpool this season. And listen, I'm sure Mo Salah will probably get all of the individual accolades in terms of the Football Writers Awards and everything like that, and deservedly so, because he's been tremendous and he's been the decisive one in terms of the goals. But Van Dijk has been close to his best level this season. He might have had a little dip the last few weeks, but been so impressive, and I've been so impressed with, as you say, the way he's almost sort of filled that void a little bit left by Jurgen. And I think it shows in the way the manager speaks about him. He speaks about all of his players, positively, but I think when he speaks about Virgil, there's just that something extra there. It's almost like this real respect and appreciation, almost as a friend as much as a player. And I think he acknowledges that he's been really helpful in that transition as well. So yeah, I was delighted for him to get that moment yesterday.
It was nice that he had that moment as well, because it feels like the season hasn't really had a moment like that, short of maybe the Núñez winner at Brentford. I don't think there's been anything sort of on the level of, I think of the season we won it, there's the Salah goal against Manchester United, which was where everyone was go, wow. You think of the season before, when there was the sort of the last minute own goal against Spurs, and then a week later there was the Southampton Salah winner, for example. They were moments that you look back on and they sort of define the season. I don't think this is going to quite be at that level, just because of the circumstances are not quite the same, but it was nevertheless a late winner that reduced the number of points we need quite significantly, and everyone's able to walk out the ground buzzing, and everyone's like, wow, that was great. And it's nice that he got the opportunity to do that, because I think he's been really deserving of it. It's interesting looking around, like someone is going to probably score a goal that wins Liverpool the league, and it would be nice if it was him, wouldn't it? There's some players it would obviously be nice whoever it is, and it's fine. But there's some that it would sort of be a bit like, that would be better. Like him and Salah, for example, would be the two that you're sort of looking at and going, well, that would be you get the new contract, your crown. And
Gravenberch hasn't scored yet this season.
No, he hasn't, has he? Last goal he scored was it Fulham? Did he score Fulham last season? Yeah. It would help if we put the really tall man in the middle at corners. He stays back.
I know, yes. I think it's because of the recovery pace, but yes.
There was also one yesterday where it went to the edge of the box and he won a header, and it's like, that also makes sense.
Yeah.
It's as if they do think about these things. you think you're seeing Shimmikas on the 6-yard box, thinking, what's he doing there? And then you're seeing Gravenberch at the edge of the box and the ball goes cleared, and you're like, they're
not idiots.
Do you know what they're doing, these people?
They're not idiots. Grace, with the captain, just to sort of sum up on it, he has been remarkably special, and so that he did get that moment. But as I say, I thought it was as much the fact that you got to see the outpouring. Yeah. I genuinely thought he just wants to get in the crowd.
Yeah, the level of emotion, the way he kisses the badge, all of the talk about the contract situation in the week, and people were saying it was going to get announced the same day as Salah, but I'm glad Salah got his day. That was quite nice.
Would have been cool if he'd only got an hour, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd like Van Dijk to have his own day. Maybe a week. I'd take a week for Virg. I think he's worth that. Just the outpouring of emotion, and to be there yesterday when he scored that goal was excellent, and I do hope he commits his future to the club, because I actually think he just embodies what Liverpool Football Club is. And like those moments that you mentioned yesterday, Beth, about how he was in the mix zone is just so nice to hear, because you see how cool and calm he is. And I've been to interview him before and sat there and thought, like, oh, you can really feel his presence when he walks into a room, and it's slightly daunting. But to know that he's human like the rest of us, and he's got these emotions, and he clearly cares about the club so much, is just exactly what you want from a captain. And yesterday was just the epitome of what he's capable of.
I want to talk about Salah briefly, just to begin to sort of sum up. I'm struck by something on the BBC website today. Arabic football experts, and I apologise for marmalising the pronunciation almost certainly. Mohamed Katoub said that the news of Salah's contract extension had had a great impact on his native Egypt, Beth. It was to the BBC's World Service Football podcast, and he went on to say it's fair to say the vast majority of Egyptian football fans have enjoyed hearing this news. Everyone in Egypt wants more of the Salah Liverpool story to be inspiring for a young generation, brought people together in Egyptian cafes and in front of TV screens. The hot news in Egypt is always when Liverpool are playing next to watch Salah. To hear that Salah saying has been a source of pride for him to complete a decade at Liverpool if he sees the contract out as something no one thought an Egyptian player could achieve, given the previous experience of Egyptian players in the Premier League. I think we forget that it's in part the power of the Premier League before you even get to Liverpool, but the power of Liverpool in terms of bringing those people together. We're all feeling very, very good today. We're all feeling very, very pro-Liverpool towards a league title, towards a parade, which we want the world to come to. I just think it's great that a massive bunch of Egyptians have decided to be a part of our thing. I think that's just really, really cool, and it's because of him.
Yeah, and I think it is quite easy sometimes with Salah to just forget how massive he is back in the whole of sort of the Arabic world, I guess, but certainly back home in Egypt. And that makes what he does more remarkable, because the amount of pressure that he has had to shoulder for his entire football career, basically the sacrifices that he had to make, as this skinny young lad who was getting buses hours and hours a day to get to training and things like that, and to get to where he is now, where he is just the most dedicated athlete that you could possibly imagine, and still at the absolute peak of his powers. But he transcends football, doesn't he? And I think sort of one of my favourite sort of Salah stats from over the years is the one about there was a study a few years ago about the reduction of Islamophobia on Merseyside, and it had decreased, I can't remember the actual number, but by a really significant amount. And I do think it's great to imagine being able to have that impact, and the way he carries himself, the way he conducts himself, how much he loves the city and makes a point to say how much he loves the city and its people, and how his children are now part of this community. And I just think it's a really special relationship that Mo Salah has with Liverpool, and I don't think maybe until he's gone, I'm not quite sure how special that partnership is will be fully realised. But yeah, as you say, it's so nice that there's a whole load of Egyptian Liverpool fans getting behind it.
It comes with responsibilities, Phil, but I think it also just comes with a huge amount of joy as well. I think it's, it's obviously a joyous thing. It's great. The more people want to come and be part of our thing, the happier I am about it at every single opportunity. I like the idea of this gathering together in the cafes and in front of the TV screens because Salah is doing things. But I think he's also conscious of that. I think he knows that that's the case every single time he gets on a football pitch, and I think at times we need to remember that for him, that is quite a burden, but it's a burden he's carried just magnificently.
But he's quite possibly the highest profile footballer from the Arabic world ever. Maybe even the highest profile sports person.
Yeah, quite possibly.
I'm trying to think of someone else, and I haven't got a great deal.
No.
And that comes with a huge amount of responsibility, a huge amount of attention, and he thrives under it all, doesn't he? I think that's the most impressive thing about him, is he's able to sort of take that responsibility and carry it. Like you see, he got the not even a Liverpool thing when he scores that penalty to get Egypt to the World Cup. That was a huge thing because they haven't been to the World Cup for, I think, was it since 1990?
Yeah,
I think so. It was 28 years between World Cup appearances for, I think they've won the most African nations, Egypt, haven't they? And so they
might be joint, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. But they should be in.
Yeah,
they should be in every World Cup ultimately, and they haven't been. And he was able to just go, okay, well, this is me now. I'll score that penalty. I'll take you to the World Cup, and we'll see what happens. And he just thrives under this pressure and responsibility. And it's great. We get another 2 years of him.
Do you know the bit that I love the most? He said after he signed his contract that the happiest person was his daughter.
Yeah.
Because she's a Scouser. She's grown up here. It's like, why would... All right, there was an awful lot of money put on the table by Saudi, but the fact that he's turned that down says as much about him as it does his family and the impact that he's made, not globally, but in Liverpool as well.
There we are. Everyone should come to the parade. The parade will be the 26th. No one will say it officially until it's done, but I will, because I'm bold as brass and I'm still drunk from last night. So the parade will be the 26th. You don't need to ask anymore online, when do you think the parade will be? The parade will be the 26th. It'll be the bank holiday Monday after the last game. Everyone should come. If you're hearing this, you should come. It will be spectacular. Yeah?
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be here. It's not like it's a final and some of us are away and all that sort of stuff.
So most of us will be on a 3-day bender by that point, but yeah, everyone will be on lampposts, on bus stops.
Is it day 3 or day 2? This is a tough one.
Well, I'm going to a wedding on the 24th, so for me it'll definitely be day 3.
Day 3 for Grace. Big wedding on the Saturday, moving into the Sunday, and then a huge Monday. Only 60,000 people can get in the ground, but 2 million people could be on the streets of Liverpool. It will be absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much indeed to Peloton for supporting the Anfield Wrap. Do check them out in every single way if you are interested in improving your fitness. I am going to need it to get through the month of May and into June, so it's worth bearing that in mind as well. Thank you very much for looking after the images, Jordan Singleton, all the way through. If you have watched this on the YouTube or anywhere else for that matter, I've done the sound, so well done me. It's about time credit got shared out around here properly. Is right echo, marvellous, and I've managed to sit up straight all the way through. A huge thank you to Grace.
That's a greater miracle than I think anybody realises, in fairness.
No one knows the trouble I've seen. Huge thank you to Beth, to Grace, to Phil. Look after anyone you need to look after tomorrow. That's the way in which it works. We're all in this together. That's the Anfield Wrap.